What's going on? Hey, in this video, I want to talk about blended families. A lot of families today that come together, it's built up of two people, two adults who have had prior relationships, and because of a prior relationship, they've had children. But in the quest of life, in the quest and seeking a pursuit of happiness, people have come together to try to find out that, hey, they found love in someone else who happened to have a relationship before then. So I'm going to talk in this video about some of the things as far as coping with and really growing in blended families, and just some tips, things that I've learned, things that I think can help as we move forward. And so the number one thing that I realized, it's been two times that I've come into a situation. Back in '98 when I got married, I married my ex-wife, and she had a 4-year-old son, and I had never had any children prior to that. And so coming together, it was one of those things where I was basically adopting a new son, a son that already had a prior life and experience and expectation. I had a mother who was my wife, who she had certain ways that she wanted to do things, discipline, ideologies, patterns, structures, all this stuff. And then I'm coming to the picture. And so you can imagine the type of stress, you can imagine the type of tension, you can imagine the differences and the roadblocks and or the different things that can happen when you have two totally different lives coming together. You see, as a husband and wife coming together who have previous relationships with no children, it's one thing. But when you involve children into the mix, it adds a whole nother element. And so there are some things that I've experienced, man, when I first came in. I remember when I first got into a relationship, it was a little tough at first. When I say tough, it wasn't the fact that I had any animosity towards anybody. It was just that it was different. And I knew what it was like to be Donovan by myself and then take care of family members and take care of other siblings and all those things. But to have a child that I didn't bring into the world, and to have a child who I had to learn, I had to grow with, I had to understand the mother, and I had to really grow into the situation. It was challenging, and it wasn't just the easiest thing, but it was something that over time I got a chance to get used to, and I had to check my heart and find out, wait a minute, if I look at this from a lens of purpose, I may not have designed it to be this way, but it was purpose for me to be this way because I get a chance to grow and be in this person's life in a way that they may not have had. And this person, not only do I get a chance to add to them, but they get a chance to add to me. And I'll tell you, one of the most revelational things that I had was when I think about, it was in '99, after I got married, and I was thinking about how can I continually grow? What is the way that I should look at this situation in a way that helps everybody? Well, I'll never forget, I was reminded of a passage in the Bible where it says that, Jesus, the Christ, my Savior, he was a Jew, and he was born of a certain family. And everybody else who was not an Israelite, not Jewish, if you will, they were what they call Gentiles. That means they was of a different household. They was of a different family. And the Bible goes on to say, because of what he did, because of his sacrifice, because he laid down his life for us, that he says that there are now no more Jews or Gentiles. That meant that everybody was in the family. And everybody, whether you were a Jew or not, or whether you're in the family or not, you are part of the family. So therefore, you're being loved just as if you're part of the family. And so there was no lines, there were no divisions, there were no separation. It was just purely love. And therefore, there was no favoritism. It was, I am looking at you and approaching you and loving you and engaging and dealing with you just as if you were from my own bloodline, because we're all family. And I remember reading that and understanding that, and it was kind of revelational and eye-opening to say, that's how I should love him. That's how I should love anybody that comes into my family in a blended family situation, okay, or being a step parent, where I did not originate that child into this earth, but it is my job to love this child in this earth. And so I say the same thing when we think about it. When we think about coming together, there's some things that I had, that ideology and that thought and that mindset actually helped me. And did I have challenges as we come? Yes, we all do. Because it's two different lives, and one of the greatest things in life is relationship. Can be the most stressful, but it's one of the greatest things, especially when it's coming together with two lives. And so here's some things that I realized in that situation. And I realized about when blended families come together. Number one, if a person is going to come into a relationship, and it's a blended family, they need to kind of plan a little bit. So in planning, here's some things that I recommend. Okay, number one, like, don't try to have too many challenges all at once, because it can unsettle children. When I realized, when I got remarried and my wife had a daughter, I realized that in terms of me coming in, instead of me being the disciplinarian, instead of me doing all these different things, assuming, my job was to come in and support what she's already established. Because in her, she already was a great parent. She already was on the ball. She already was key in education, key into health and wellness, and making sure that the child was grounded and centered. So in terms of me coming in, it wasn't about coming in and bringing everything that I had from my past. It was about coming in and assessing the situation. What is going on that is right? What is going on that's healthy? What is it that I can be a part of to maintain the continuous growth in this family? So again, not having too many changes is one way to plan for a blended family. The next thing is, don't expect to fall in love, with the children right away. I realized that I didn't fall in love right away, because I had to deal with the fact that this was just not my child by birth. But I fell in love over time the more I began to embrace the fact that it is my opportunity and my honor to love this child. It is my job to be a foundation, to be an infrastructure, to be a source, to be a resource, and to be a helper, and to be an encourager in the life of this child. And so my love for the child, my love for him continuously grow. So is my love for the daughter that I'm now raising now. And so again, understand that, hey, you don't have to fall in love with the child right away. Next thing is, make the parenting, changes before, a person gets married. If they know they're coming together, talk about it. What is it going to be like? Let's let's go through a list of things that are really important to you. What are some values that you feel are really important? Because here's what you'll learn. You'll learn that we all come together. A relationship is just a combination of two histories coming together, of experiences, of ideals, of emotions, of, everything, good, bad, and different. And everybody comes to the table with something different. And so you may have children from one relationship who experience one thing with a mother and father. You may have children from another relationship and they experience something else. Well, the key thing is, how do we come together? What are the key things that's going to make this relationship, to make this family successful? So again, agree with the new person, what it is that you're going to do. What are the adjustments that you're going to make? The more you can plan out, the better. As I said, I never went to a game without a game plan. We'll be fools to try to, go into a new relationship, blended family relationship, without a game plan. Never had an airplane, went on an airplane on a trip without them setting the coordinates. So we have to plan it out. We have to go from there. And then here's another thing, man. I always say respect is something that is earned, not just given. But in these relationships, you have to insist that, there's a level of respect. Because there is a natural pushing away from a child, a lot of times, when a new person comes in. Number one, it may take over some of the time that they had individual time. It may cause them to have to do certain things that they may not really literally ready to do. A certain level of honor, respect, and adoration, or obedience, or discipline, whatever it may be. So there may be some pushback. So it's necessary for the parents to come together and say, what do we insist? We insist on these children respecting one another. We're insisting on these children respecting the other parents and expecting all the adults. And then there has to be mutual respect around there. So again, as you think about this, these are some things when you think about planning. And the last one, you have to kind of limit your expectations a little bit. You have to give it time. These things take time. They take energy. They take love and commitment. What is love? I believe love is combining two key words: kindness and patience. Kindness saying that I'm going to do for you what you don't ask of me to do. And patience saying I'm going to allow you to be human. That means I'm going to allow you to make mistakes. And when you come together with blended families, you understand that there are two lives coming together. And it's going to take time to mold. It's going to take time to figure each other out. It's going to take time to be focused on the goal. The goal is what? The goal is love. To love each other, to love one another, to pour out for each other, and to serve each other. Because if we look at life through the lens of purpose, we understand that there's a purpose to this. There's something greater on the other side, and there's a reason why you're together. There's something that you can give and something you're here to receive, because this moment is not by an accident. This relationship is not by an accident. It's on purpose. All right. And so again, what are some ways in which you can bond with your new family? Okay, understand this, children. When you're coming in, children want to feel this couple things. Children want to feel safe and secure. They want to know that no matter what happens, that they're safe and secure. When you have a blended family, that's one of the biggest things. They're not sure because there's sometimes they're like, hey, my dad's not here or my mom's not here, or there were situations one way or the other. And I don't know if you're going to be here either. Because they're not used to understanding that, hey, you can have an argument or conflict or disagreement, but yet you stay. Because children are not developing that. So children want to just feel secure. Children just want to know that at the end of the day, this new person coming in is not going to abuse me. This person coming in is going to love me. Although they don't know what it fully means to love someone, they're just here waiting, hoping, and desiring that the person coming in is based in love and ready to love them and help them in any way. And so again, as we always know, that love kids, if you love kids, they seem to be more affectionate. They seem to be more caring. I'll never forget, when I met my wife and her daughter, she was very kind of protective, as you can imagine, very protective. And so if I'm hugging my wife, she coming in trying to get her hug, jumping right in between, right? If I'm sitting on the couch, who comes jumping in between? But here's what I realized, that through time of me basically inviting her, hey, come on in here, come on, sit right here. She felt like she didn't have to embarge upon those moments because she was welcomed with love. She didn't feel like it was her against I in terms of her mother's heart. She knew that, guess what, she's always invited. And see, these are some of the things that has to happen. They have to happen intentionally because kids just don't get over it. And sometimes adults just don't get over it. It has to be intentional when you have these situations. The next thing a child want to feel valued. They want to know that, they're a part of this family. And they're not just a sidekick. And although the new love that's coming into this relationship is coming and is being sent, is being seen, is being witnessed, is being heard, is being felt, if you will, between the mother and the father, and they're feeling like, hey, man, well, where's my extra love? Okay, but they just want to know that, hey, I'm a part of it. They just want to know that, hey, that I am important. Because they can feel unimportant when the family come together, when the new husband and wife or the new, stepfather or stepmother come in the picture. They can start feeling unimportant because they can feel like a lot of the attention now is going to the other person. So here's one of the things that you do when they start to feel that. As I said, you intentionally invite them. You set out time, you schedule time to make sure that they have time with that other person. With their parent, with the original parent. Then you also set time and schedule time with with the family, the new family as a whole. Because you want that child to understand, hey, this is how we do it. We have individual time and then we have family time. And then you also want to spend some time without the kids around, with just you developing that relationship. Okay, kids also want to know that they're heard and that they're emotionally connected. You see, coming into a new situation, I know most times it can be very threatening for a man to come into the relationship of a single mom. Because that child can feel like, here's a guy who's a lot of times bigger than they are, bigger than their mom is, and that person may come in a forceful way. But what kids want to know is that they are heard. And so creating an opportunity for all the fathers that come in, all the new fathers, understanding that, hey, these kids want to be heard. So sit down with them, talk to them, ask them, what are your fears? What are you most nervous about? What are you scared about? What do you like about this? What don't you like about it? And be man enough and be mature enough to hear them. Because it's not personally against you. It's not anything, they don't even know you. But give them time. By giving them time to digest and to embrace this moment, does so much for allowing this family to come together. They want to know that there's limits and there's boundaries. Actually, children they may not think that they need boundaries, but they need it. They need boundaries. So to that person that comes into the relationship and they just think that, hey, the best way that I can get on their good side or we can develop together if I just have no boundaries, that's the biggest way to set your relationship back with the children and with their parents, with the other parent. But you got to set boundaries. You see, nobody really likes discipline, but we like what discipline does for us. And kids at that age, if you gave it up to them, they'll eat candy and cookies and ice cream all day and night. But how many of you guys know that we don't give them that as parents because we know what's best for them? And so understanding that we set boundaries, we set boundaries because they needed it. And then the other thing we had to do is let the stepchild set the pace. Let the stepchild, I know just as much, I can imagine how it is. I know when I came into the relationship, I wanted the children to accept me. And so, but sometimes one of the biggest mistakes is that in trying to get acceptance, we go too fast, or we think that a child is supposed to just embrace, not really knowing what's going on in the inside of that child. But if we just take our time, see, at the end of the day, at this generation, this age now, because there's so much things coming at kids, and there's so much danger all around, that sometimes they may not necessarily look like they're listening to us, but they're watching us. They're watching. Will you be around? How will you act? How will you react or act if things don't go your way? Will you take it out on me? Will you take it out on on my parent, on my mom, or my dad? What will you do? And so understanding that, they just want to feel safe, they want to feel secure, and it's all about taking at their pace, letting them know. Because every child is a little bit different. There's some kids that they're very high engaging. There's other kids that are shy and they're introverted. But you being able to be the wise one in a blended family says, you know what, I got to allow this child to set the pace. I got to be patient. Hey, how about how about reading some books on it? How about looking at some videos? Okay, and that's the purpose of this course, is to be able to share with you some ideas and some tips on how you can do, to help the blended family. Another key thing is using some rituals and, rituals and routines. Using ritual and routines is nothing like expectation. There's nothing greater that brings people together than be able to expect something. To know at this time we're going to do this. At that time we're going to do that. And no matter what's going on around us, we're going to come together. So as a new family, a new blended family, creating your own traditions, creating your own rituals, creating things that actually help you come together on purpose. Maybe it could be, hey, we eat dinner together. At dinner time, we put all the phones up and we have a pack of questions at the table. And we go around the room and we just ask the same question and we hear everybody. And if it's necessary or opportunity presents itself, we dive a little deep and ask a couple follow-up questions from there. But routines are very, very, very key. And then as you know this, you guys, blended families, each age of a child brings about different challenges and opportunities. For example, if you have kids that are younger than age 10, sometimes they're more accepting of a new adult because they don't have a lot of life lived. And one of the key things from a physiological standpoint is that their conscious mind is not developed as much. The reasoning part of their mind is not developed as much. That part that basically accepts or rejects whatever information is given to them. Basically, that's what we call a lot of times, it's the rebellion phase. But because they're young enough, it is not developed yet as much, they tend to go along with what's asked. Okay, so again, kids under 10, they have some more needs that need to be met. Okay, they're more accepting of new adults, and at the end of the day, they're easier to embrace. So if you're in a family where the new family where the kids are underneath 10 years old, that family has more of a likely for it to be successful faster. But once you get into kids that are a little more older, adolescents, 10 to 14, they become that teenage. Here's some things. It can be sometimes the most difficult time. Why? Because we know teenagers can act like teenagers, which means that their hormones can be all over the place. One day they're your best friend, the next day they hate you because what's happening to them is, you imagine, they're getting explosiveness of emotions. They're getting this explosiveness of hormones that's happening on the inside of them, and they're trying to figure it out themselves. And so they don't have all the wherewithal and the wisdom and experience to know what's going on with them. They just know this is happening to them. And they just don't know what happens. So now the same thing that somebody else can just rationally understand, you couple that on top of a bottle full of emotions that's built in low self-esteem and unacceptance and all this other stuff that comes at their age, you can see why there's a lot more tension. And so as you have that, understand that discipline may be a little more tough. They need more support, and they may not need as much attention. Okay, but they just need you to be there. Okay, again, we talked about it earlier, not going too fast. Get it at their own pace. Just let them know, hey, I'm here. I'm not trying to replace anybody. I'm just here, and I'm grateful to be in your life. And if you need me, I'm here. I remember thinking about, with my wife, Allison, and how with her daughter, I was thinking, like, I shared with her, I said, you know what, babe? I said, you do such a great job at raising her that I feel that in this relationship, my job is to support you when it comes to the child rearing or child raising development. That means my job is to is to support you to find out what do you see, how do you see it, and then support you and support her in a development. Versus, here's one of the big mistakes most people think about or do when they come to a new relationship or blended family. They just come in and say, hey, this is the way I do it, and this is the way it's going to do it with me. Like, hey, you know, when I grew up, we all said yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and it has to happen here or it's going to be problems. Guess what? You do that, just jumping in the door, I guarantee you're going to have issues. But I can hear you say, oh, but they got to respect me. Well, they can respect you. They can respect you by you respecting them to say, hey, this can be a little challenging. Let me go at my own pace, or let me go at the pace that they're ready, and or let me walk this thing out, okay? And so again, when you do that, the relationship is a lot of times it's able to heal faster from there. A couple things about teenagers and a little bit older. Boys tend to accept a stepfather more quickly than girls, as you can imagine. All right, girls tend to be more uncomfortable with physical display of affection from their stepfather, which you can imagine. You know, a lot of young girls have been abused at the hand of a man, a father figure, or someone along that nature. And so again, at the end of the day, it's just really being consistent. It's really being consistent, you know. And so again, in the course, I continue to lay out even further, more steps, and definitely check that out. But here's one of the things that I realized in the takeaways about being a step parent and it's in a blended family. The beauty of being able to love more, receive more, give more is one of the greatest precious moments and greatest opportunities in life. And when you think about life, when you think about blended families through the eyes of perspective, you say, wait a minute, here's an opportunity that we get a chance to love on a greater level. Although we may start out with the uncomfortability and without the knowledge and understanding and uneasiness that may abide with coming into a new family and having to start all over, but not start all over from the youngest age, but at whatever age the kids are, it can bring about challenges. Although we have to do that, this is a tremendous opportunity for you to grow. It's a tremendous opportunity for the parents to grow at this level, to grow at this age, to accept, to be more accepting, to be more loving, to be more kind. You see, at the end of the day, if all you're focusing on doing is just being the same way and not changing at all, then guess what? Maybe you're not the one that should be in a blended relationship or blended family. But it is to those who are in one to look at that relationship and say, I don't know, I may not have been control exactly how they got here, but I can definitely impact how they live here. I can love them. I can be with them. I can support them. I can nurture them. I can encourage them. And so again, as a blended family, being in a blended family, you know, it is a challenge, but it's a great opportunity. And so listen, man, I hope that these little nuggets, these little insights were encouraging to you as you're thinking about how do you take your life to the next level, especially how do you win in a family, a blended family. Well, you do it with love, kindness, and patience. You do it giving it time, going at and taking your time. Okay, not rushing into anything, planning things out, talking things out, and being the greatest support you can be. Because at the end, when it's all said and done, a greater family is what you became. A greater love circle is what you developed and what you built. And a greater love of quality of life and quality of living is what you have to show for it. And so listen, man, I'm Donovan Darius, former 10-year NFL player, professional life strategist, motivator, and speaker and author. My desire is that you enjoy, that you receive something out of this that you can pass on, that you can apply, that gives you a greater level of expectation and understanding. And so listen, you guys be blessed, man, and be encouraged. If you enjoyed this message, don't forget, like, comment, subscribe, and share, okay? And pass it along, all right? Let me know your comments. Let me know how, what is it like for you and your blended family? What is the biggest challenges for you and your blended family? And what are some of the successes that you have? What are some of the things you do or have done that's giving you the greatest victory at this level? I look forward to hearing from you. You guys, peace out.